everybody, and welcome. At this point, we just want to give an update to everyone on what public safety measures are being taken in reference to the ongoing protest. And with that, I'd like to introduce Governor Jack Davenport.
Okay, Kyle, thank you, and thank you everybody for being here and your interest in the information that we have available for you. Over the past few weeks, North Dakota law enforcement officers have been working tirelessly, investing extra time and resources and facing challenging conditions as they respond to increased activity resulting from the Dakota Access Pipeline protest south of Mandan. They have done an outstanding job ensuring the safety of workers, protesters, and the general public. Since the very beginning, public safety has been our top priority, and our law enforcement officers have worked hard to ensure everyone's safety while also preserving people's right to protest in a peaceful and lawful manner. I'd like to thank all of the law enforcement officers who have put in very long days and weeks and have put their lives on hold to respond to increased public safety demands. Colonel Mike Gerhardt and the North Dakota Highway Patrol have done a remarkable job ensuring the safety of the protesters and the traveling public. Morton County Sheriff Kyle Kirchmeyer and the Morton County Sheriff's Department have consistently gone above and beyond to address the increased activity and protect those they serve. Al Dorman and the North Dakota Department of Emergency Services staff have been instrumental in assisting with operations and logistics, and several other state agencies have been assisting in the response effort. I would also like to thank the sheriffs, deputies, police chiefs, and other law enforcement professionals from other communities and counties across the state that have also provided valuable resources for this effort. And thanks especially to all those manning the Emergency Operations Center in Mandan. You have consistently demonstrated your professionalism, expertise, and dedication to public safety. And for that, I sincerely thank you. For public safety, the North Dakota Highway Patrol and the Morton County Sheriff's Department are enhancing their law enforcement presence over the coming weekend. Plans are underway for additional officers in the Bismarck-Mandan area and enhanced patrols in rural Morton County. They will also be receiving support from other sheriff's departments across the state. Because of the increased and prolonged need for law enforcement resources, I have asked General Dorman to make available some North Dakota National Guard personnel to support law enforcement and augment their public safety efforts. The Guard members will serve in administrative capacities and assist in providing security at traffic points. Beginning today, the traffic control point on 1806 will be converted to a traffic information point, advising motorists of potential hazards, but not requiring a detour. With the National Guard helping in these support roles, we can free up more officers for enhanced patrols and calls for assistance. I have also placed additional guardsmen on standby alert in the event they are needed to assist with response efforts. The Guard members will provide valuable personnel, resources, and equipment necessary to support local, tribal, and state officials. Public safety has always been and continues to be paramount. We are also committed to protecting the constitutional rights of those who want to assemble peacefully and lawfully. At the same time, we must make sure that peace is maintained this weekend. The steps we are outlining for you today are being taken out of an abundance of caution. We simply want to make sure we are prepared. I encourage everyone who demonstrates against the Dakota Access Pipeline project to do so in a respectful and lawful way. Resist any pressure from others to violate the law and tarnish your message. I also encourage all North Dakotans to respect the rights of others. We all have a right to have our voices heard. That's what makes this country as great as it is today. But in doing so, we must also ensure the safety of our citizens and uphold the rule of law. I'll now turn it over to Colonel Mike Gerhardt to discuss in more detail the Highway Patrol's plans for enhanced enforcement.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start off by saying we're thankful of the actions of the Governor's office allowing for additional resources from the North Dakota National Guard to be made available to support law enforcement. The citizens of North Dakota expect law enforcement services to be available on a moment's notice. Having additional resources available from the National Guard allows our officers to better serve the citizens and allows them to concentrate, and allows us to concentrate on public safety efforts. These public safety efforts include responding to calls for service, proactive traffic enforcement, and a visible presence on our roadways. These additional resources will provide the assistance needed to have adequate law enforcement presence to address any traffic safety or other security issues that may arise over the coming days. We continue to maintain open lines of communication with tribal leaders. We all have the same goal of coming to a peaceful resolution. Thank you, and I'd like to turn it over now to General L. Dorman.
Thanks, Mike. I don't have a lot to add to what the Governor already highlighted. One thing I do want to stress, though, is a couple days ago, we were here and we had a press conference talking about the situation at that time. And I share with everyone that over the last 2 weeks, we've been in discussions with leaders from the camp down there and leaders from the Standing Rock tribe. And the one thing that the leadership down there that keeps talking about peaceful, prayerful protest that they share with us is public safety. Public safety for the folks that live in rural Morton County, for the protesters that are at that site that want to protest lawfully and exercise their First Amendment rights, and those on Standing Rock that want to maintain public safety. That is our #1 goal. And what we're doing here today, by bringing some guardsmen in to help out on the checkpoint so that law enforcement can do what they do best, and that's get out there on the roads to promote public safety and be there when needed, when citizens, whether you live in rural Morton County or whether you're passing through because you're at the camp down south, public safety is priority #1. The Guards model is always ready, always there, and right now if we can come in and help out in a non-law enforcement function to free up officers to promote public safety, we see that as a win. And this has been part of the discussions we've been having, as I said, with both the leaders of the camp down there and the leaders from Standing Rock. The other thing, I've already received a couple of emails this morning saying, oh, we've heard the Guard is heading south. The Guard is not heading south. The Guard's role here is to promote, like everyone else, public safety and to help out with law enforcement so we can free up officers with patrol cars to go down there and have a visible presence for the citizens of North Dakota and those that are visiting us and down in those camps today. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to the Sheriff and then answer any questions you might have after that. Sheriff?
Thank you. At this point, I want to assure the people of Morton County that law enforcement is present at all the protest sites. Please be aware that I have requested and received law enforcement assistance from agencies from across the state. We are increasing our patrols as we speak. We will, and we'll make sure that we can do everything to make sure the people of this county are protected. Unlawful acts that are taking place during the protests are being dealt with through the court system, and we are investigating the illegal acts and formalizing criminal charges. Law enforcement has done everything we can do not to escalate the situation with the protests, but our hands are being forced at this point by unlawful acts and aggression actions taken by protesters within the protest groups. We have respected the rights of the protest to exercise their First Amendment rights. This week, we've had numerous instances in Morton County where residents are being intimidated, harassed, and in some cases outright threatened. At this point, this is unacceptable, and we want, due to this, we are going to increase our patrols, make sure we're visible in the area, and answer calls, public safety calls as needed. So, thank you. Any questions we'll take at this point?
General, how many guardsmen are going to be there, and will they be armed?
At this point, the guardsmen that are employed will be based on mission requirements. The only mission we've received at this point is to relieve some law enforcement at the checkpoint. Law enforcement will still be in the lead at the information point. I should use the right terms here. So whatever that requirement is to help out there. And then there'll be approximately another 100 on standby. And then, as always, if needed, we have guardsmen all around the state that we can call in if there is a requirement for them. But again, about 100 that will be on a shorter notice to come in and help support law enforcement if required.
And what was the number in addition to that 100?
Well, our total strength in North Dakota National Guard is about 4,100.
But how many will actually be?
At these
How many will
checkpoints
actually
and
be at
so
the
on?
checkpoint and help?
We'll coordinate that with the Highway Patrol. They will remain in the lead on the information point. But if we can free up a couple units.
Are you
maybe a few
talking
officers.
dozens, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Will they
think
be
right now
armed?
it might be 6 to 8 per shift.
Will they be armed?
We'll go through that with the Highway Patrol, but right now they'll be probably display the same level of protection as the Highway Patrolmen they're working with.
So that's a yes?
Yes, I'm guessing the Highway Patrolmen right now are armed.
Where are they coming from? What units?
191 MPs, they're stationed in Bismarck, Mayville, and Fargo. This is a highly trained unit that has some law enforcement expertise, but they are not sworn peace officers in the state of North Dakota. And again, our role is to support law enforcement, not be in the lead.
Sheriff, can you talk about the enhanced patrols, and maybe the colonel can too, what the complement's going to be, and how long all these folks are going to be in place?
Well, we just, well, they plan on being in place as long as the protest is continuing and the precautions are necessary. We want to make sure that we have additional officers down on the county roads in southern Morton County to make sure. We've had several reports of individuals down there, like I mentioned before, of them being harassed and actually stopped, even trying to get them stopped in their tractors and that type of thing as they're trying to do their daily work, and we just cannot have that going on. We've had several reports of residents, driving in and to their homes, and people having them block the county roads and physically standing on the road and not letting residents through. So we just got to make sure that we increase our presence there so this doesn't occur.
Sheriff, could you, there was another, I guess this morning, incident where some individual locked themselves to equipment down there early this morning. Happened again the other day. The last 2 times it's happened, correct me if I'm wrong, but there have been no arrests made. It's just been law enforcement monitoring the situation. Is that a matter of resources? So in other words, this decision today free you up to be able to go in and arrest people in those cases, or is that a strategy to just not engage the protesters when they engage in that activity?
Well, correct. We want to make sure that we have more manpower available to respond to these instances. We did have a report this morning that there were additional protesters that were went into the private land and were on equipment. At this point, we had officers respond to that situation. Everything that we're doing right now is being investigated, and arrests will be made when investigations are through or when it's feasible to do so.
Why at this point do you turn it from a stoppage point to an information point?
Well, we want to make sure that everybody through that's going down on Highway 1806 can get where they're going with families and, you know, with the holiday weekend and everything going on. So we want to open that up, and we're had many conversations with tribal leaders to try to keep the roadway open, and that's been the whole thing about the traffic control point is due to the traffic congestion and public safety. And we're working with the tribal leaders to maintain that this roadway is kept open. So therefore, we just want to change it to an informational point so that when motorists go.
That Morton County maintains south of that checkpoint will now be open to the public?
Right now, those parks are going to remain closed.
And then if I can ask the governor a question, did you see the video from what happened out there on Saturday with when the dogs were used? And what was your reaction to that? And have you spoken with security companies about not using dogs around people in that manner?
Yes, I did see some of that video. We were not aware that the construction activity was going to be started up on Saturday afternoon. And of course, we have to keep in mind that the security personnel are there strictly for the protection of the construction workers. We have to also keep in mind that people who have entered that property at that point are trespassing. They are on private property. They do not have permission to be there. And so, you know, they are not in a position to be, you know, saying that they are, you know, in the wrong when they are told that they should leave the area. Unfortunately, that kind of confrontation is exactly what we would like to avoid. That is what we would like our law enforcement to be able to manage in some way, persuade people that this is not the proper way to protest, and, you know, really eliminate that type of activity completely.
What about the dogs? Did you talk to the security people about use of dogs like that?
Well, the company, as you know, has, you know, stopped work, left the premises,
Right.
and, you know, currently has no plans to, you know, go back to work.
Governor, I want to ask you a question. Is there any investigation as to the legalities of the construction team, you know, the security team that brought the vicious dogs that attacked, could have potentially attacked women and small children? They do have, you know, property rights to defend property, but I don't know if that includes, you know, potential lethal force. So maybe that's a question for you or for the sheriff, whether or not those investigations are taking place, because that could have been lethal, it could have been disastrous, and for all sides involved, I want to ask you specifically, are you willing to meet with DAPL shareholders, executives, tribal shareholders and executives, and other leadership to possibly create some other solution to this? Because what's happening is a potential collision. That's what the buildup is that's going on. And I want to know, I'm interested in avoiding that. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
We are interested in avoiding that as well. And I have been in communication directly with the tribal leadership and more often indirectly through the people who are standing behind me, continually trying to find ways to allow peaceful protest to take place wherever people want to do that, and avoid, you know, any kind of violence or any kind of disruption. We've had good communications with the tribal leadership. Unfortunately, as you know, there are people who are acting independently of the main group. and that is a problem. But ultimately, yes, I'm also interested in keeping the communication lines open with the company. They also will be asked to not escalate the situation unnecessarily, and we have done that.
Governor, question on the cost of all this. I mean, you're talking about now the guard component, in addition to all the law enforcement component to date. I imagine the tab is getting to be significant in the way of cost. Will you ask that there be some reimbursement from the tribe for this, given the fact this is an unlawful protest?
We will ultimately ask people who are responsible for creating expenses to reimburse the state in the end. And of course, attributing these expenses, to the right place is important. We only will ask those who are truly responsible for, help with expenses at the end of the day.
Would that include the pipeline company itself?
It could. No one would be left off of that list. If we think anyone has caused the state expense, we will be asking for reimbursement.
General, I want to ask you a question about your conversations earlier about, or sharing with us some of the conversations that went on in these negotiations. Is there a recognition that this is an unlawful protest? When you have core land that right now is occupied illegally by some estimates of 4,000 people today, do they recognize that they are by that? Same thing with the situation with the dogs. I mean, that never would have happened if people hadn't decided to bust down barricades and go a half mile into private property. So that again is illegal activity. I mean, do they acknowledge that this is an unlawful protest?
I don't know if they've acknowledged that. It's, you kind of play the hand you're dealt. And right now we have appointed by the 7 councils, chiefs or chairmans and the Standing Rock chairman, representatives that are from the camp. 2 of them have a close affiliation with Standing Rock. And we're looking for a way to end this peacefully. I realize it's an awkward situation because that camp is core property. If you want to put a fine point on it, right now they're camping without a permit. But we also have not heard from the Corps, and so they've acquiesced, I guess, at this point for those folks being there. So from a negotiation standpoint, we think we have some peacemakers down there. We're talking with them. My belief is they have influence over a good number of the folks down there. A couple days ago I talked about, I don't know how many of these agitators they are, but it seems to be the same group that keeps popping up. And we are working together to try to identify those folks. In some cases, folks have been asked to leave the camp. But just to identify them so that they can either be marginalized down there or maybe sent home, or if they come up here, we can have a law enforcement solution ready to go if something happens like happened on Saturday.
General or Governor, do you guys have access to other states' National Guard if needed?
Well, I can, the easy answer is yes through EMAC, but I don't see a requirement for bringing in National Guard from any other state.
Any idea how long these guardsmen will be on active duty?
It, again, depends how the situation unfolds. Obviously, we're all waiting on a court decision tomorrow. We'll continue our negotiations with the folks on Standing Rock and the leaders within that camp. We're trying hard to find a peaceful resolution to this after the court decision, but we will be here as long as we're needed.
A question for Colonel Gerhardt. Now that you have been freed up at the checkpoints, what would you envision your officers being able to do? Will there be more arrests as a result of this decision, as an example?
Well, our goal would be to be highly visible south of the checkpoint, not only on Highway 1806, Highway 6, but some main Morton County roads, assisting the sheriff. And if there are criminal activities that are ongoing, we would make arrests. Our goal would be to be there and be visible so people don't break the law, but ultimately if they do, we'd make arrests. It'll ultimately free up about 8 officers every 12-hour cycle. We're on 12-hour shifts right now. So I'll be able to free up 8 officers, and that'll be 4 patrol cars going up and down the road.
Can you explain what has materially changed on the roadway that made you feel comfortable reopening it?
Well, there's a couple enhancements that have been made. one of the biggest enhancements is the fact that we'll be patrolling in the area. And I think there's nothing, when it comes to traffic safety, a patrol car, it's a good tool. The other things, we partnered with DOT on creating a safer area right where the encampment is, where we've reduced the speed limit to 25. We put in digital signs. We pushed a lot of information out when it comes to the public that's traveling through there, and that's part of this information checkpoint will be to inform people that there may be traffic congestion. However, we're going to be in the area with patrol cars, which I think that's a great tool.
So I can drive, when I go down there tomorrow, I can go down 1806.
That is correct.
How about this afternoon at about 20 minutes?
Depends on how long this lasts.
And Sheriff Kirkmeyer, would you, I think we've had some different numbers floating around, so could you give us the exact number of arrests that we're talking about now from this?
From the protests, it's
Yeah.
been 37
37
to
is
this
now
point, yes.
the exact number.
Okay.
And you issued a warrant for Jill Stein. Have you found her anywhere?
No, those warrants are misdemeanor warrants, so they will be contained to North Dakota. So if she comes back into the area, they could be served at that
And
point.
if she gets stopped for traffic, her name will flash up.
Correct.
Can you elaborate on the concerns that, you mentioned you've had reports of people who live in Morton County feeling unsafe or threatened. What are you talking about?
Well, we've had, reports of, in a lot of folks in that area call us with the information, but don't want to make a formal complaint because they feel of retaliation. So that is also unacceptable at this point. For the retaliation and then to feel that way is not good. So we've had a vehicle, reports some of those examples are, we've had a vehicle with out-of-state plates playing chicken with local residents on a county gravel road. We've had a rancher go into his field that was stopped by masked men on a county road who attempted to approach him as he kept driving, and then they took off. We've had a wife that felt afraid she was to leave their ranch and travel to work. And a rancher noticed that a man videotaping his farm while being on his property. Farmers and ranchers are fearful of damage to their fields and to their pasture land. And basically, the residents down there, that we get the feeling that they are tired and frustrated and want to be able to go about their daily life activities without interruptions. Those are just a few of them.
The enhanced patrols in the Bismarck and Mandan area coincides with powwow. Can anybody speak to that and how the patrols will be bumped up?
Well, we just want to make sure that we have officers in the area and invisible for all the public. There is a lot more traffic, a lot more people coming to town for the celebration of the powwow, which is perfectly fine. And this just coincides with the protests. But our main concern is that the protest stays lawful and legal, from this point on, and we don't have incidences where people are trespassing on private land or going and crawling on equipment or vandalizing. So we just want to make sure that everybody who comes, visitors, Morton County residents, people from Burley County residents, everybody who comes in the area has a very safe weekend.
Sheriff, can you speak to how the public safety is affected when you were sending a motorist at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning around a dark, unlit gravel, unmarked detour? People who had made trips into the hospital to take residents in to be treated, and then they were sent on a detour that took up to an hour and a half longer for them to go around after they'd already been awake and working hard all day long. And how is that public safety when you're sending them out where there's no cell phone service, there's no gas stations, there's very little traffic, and there's no way for them to get help if there's an emergency?
Do you Mike, you have a question on, about the people who are, you know, I don't know if there's any instances, any ambulances, anything of that nature can all go through, the checkpoint, that hasn't been an issue.
Yes, but when a
But-
private resident takes a person to the hospital, as I did, and I was forced to go at 3 o'clock in the morning around that detour, I then got lost because it's unmarked, and I almost fell asleep while I was driving, and I could not get signal or anything.
The biggest point of that is that we want to make sure that the traffic on 1806 was safe in those circumstances, and I don't know, you know, what took place at the checkpoint or what the situation was, but the officers there are, you know, use common sense and can deal with situations as
Well, I was told it was because I might stop and be taken aback by the sight of a buffalo on the side of the road. The excuse that one of your officers gave me as to why I should not be able to go down, because I might be distracted while I was driving by the buffalo alongside the road.
well, I can't answer that. I wasn't there at the time, so
Well,
I don't
sir,
know about the comment.
and, you know, now that you are going to change this to a traffic point, are you gonna compensate people for the time and gas that they spend going around?
No.
Governor, your emergency declaration, that does allow you to pursue federal funds, or does it not? To help pay the costs of this additional enforcement?
At this point, you know, we have not asked for a federal emergency declaration.
Okay.
Can you speak to when the last time the National Guard was mobilized for health and security or traffic control that wasn't related to a natural disaster like a flood, or anyone know when the last time action like this was taken, bringing up the Guard?
Yeah, there was, Guard were activated after 9/11 for security at the airports along the northern border. And if you go way back in time, there was Zip to Zap. And there was another event in the 70s where the Guard was called out under similar circumstances to promote public safety.
The zip to zap, that was in the 70s as well.
Way before my time.
1969.
69.
Okay, I think at this point, you know, thank you very much for attending, and we're gonna wrap it up, so, thank you.